Mr. Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, Minister Delegate Abdeltif Loudi, Mes Généraux, Ambassador Fisher, honorable members of the US delegation, ladies and gentlemen. Open high instructions of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, Supreme Commander and Chief of General Staff of the Royal Armed Forces. I'm delighted to welcome you, Mr. Secretary, and your delegation here at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Your visit is significant in many ways. It is the first of a Secretary of Defense under the Trump administration. It is the third official visit to Morocco of a sitting US Defense Secretary during the two last decades. And it comes complementing an important sequence of high-level visits to the Kingdom of Morocco by US officials, such as Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Senior Advisor to the President Jared Kushner, Advisor to the President Ivanka Trump, Acting Homeland Security David Bokoski, MCC President Shane Cranecourse, IDFC CEO Adam Boller, among others. Mr. Secretary, distinguished guests, occasions like today's are often appropriate opportunities to look back and commend all that we have achieved together. And there is indeed much to celebrate. It started back in 1786 with the signing by the Sultan Mohammed III and John Adam and Thomas Jefferson of the US-Morocco Treaty of Peace and Friendship. This treaty, which formalized US-Moroccan relations, is also the longest-standing treaty in America's history. And it is not a coincidence that the two key words in that treaty are peace and friendship, as we have indeed always believed in peace as a pillar of our alliance. Our long-standing alliance has not only endured the test of time, we have stood side by side throughout the major challenges that shaped the 20th century and has transitioned into the 21st century stronger than ever. It has adapted to new, bigger, and more vicious threats, namely terrorism, violent extremism, transnational and cybercrime, illicit trafficking of all kinds, and separatism. Particularly the fight against terrorism and international threats is an equally important component in addressing shared security challenges. Intelligence sharing, participation in the coalition against Daesh, our leading role in the Global Counterterrorism Forum, and the joint security operations demonstrate the strength of our uninterrupted and expanded cooperation. Our alliance relies on dedicated tools we have developed, such as the Strategic Dialogue and the Defense Consultative Committee. Morocco's designation in 2004 as US major non-NATO ally reflects the high degree of trust we have attained in security matters. The joint military exercises are an integral part contributing to the success of our bilateral relationship and cemented Morocco's contribution as a US defense ally, mainly in Africa. The best example of this is the African Lion, America's biggest joint military exercise in the African continent. Mr. Secretary, though the list of our shared successes is long, we are not here today simply to congratulate each other on past achievements. Our exceptional partnership is diverse, and it is also successful because it relies on many assets, among which, first, it has a solid foundation, grounded on shared values and common interests, and reinforced by the convergence of our positions on diplomatic issues. It is enhanced by the role of Morocco as a regional peace and security provider in a volatile geostrategic environment. This cooperation is also comprehensive and global because the defense pillar is a component of the overall strategic partnership between our two nations that include other components, such as the economical cooperation, the Morocco-US FTA, which troubled the trade between our two countries in the last years, political consultation, and the human, religious, cultural basket. This cooperation has also a multiplying effect. Any investment in our cooperation can be seen disseminated in Morocco's cooperation with other regional partner countries. Through existing trilateral cooperation agreements, such as the anti-terrorism agreement signed back in 2014, our two countries offer training, capacity building, and other means to partner African nations to help them build and sustain a security apparatus able of defending their sovereignty and stability. And lastly, this cooperation is forward-looking, as it builds on a visionary, ever-expanding partnership that defines our shared security goals for the next decade and accompanies Morocco's ambition and ongoing projects and efforts to modernize its defense sector under the leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI, Supreme Commander and Chief of General Staff of the Royal Armed Forces. Mr. Secretary, it is precisely in this forward-looking context that we are signing today this roadmap for defense cooperation, which is timely and relevant at many levels. It is happening at a time of growing threats and evolving challenges. This roadmap reflects the bold and proactive leadership our two nations seek to promote for a safer world, as expressed at the highest level by His Majesty and the President. Within this global pandemic, when the world is facing deep fears about the future, our roadmap reaffirms clearly that our alliance is strong and here to stay. And upon a global stage dominated by short-term emergencies, we demonstrate through today's roadmap that we are seeking a more visionary, long-term approach that builds peace and security from the roots to ensure a sustainable stability for our people. That is why, Mr. Secretary, we are proud to stand together here today to reiterate through this roadmap our continued faith in the vibrant future of our Morocco-American alliance and in the key role played by our diverse cooperation. I would like to conclude my speech by quoting former Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, Mr. Henry Kissinger, who once said, and I quote, "Yes, we cannot always assure the future of our friends, but we have a better chance of assuring our future if we remember who our friends are." End of quote. I thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Good morning, everyone. Minister Barita, Minister Delegate Ludi,
and General Luarik, fellow visitors and friends and distinguished guests, it is an honor to be here with you today for the signing of this historic defense cooperation roadmap. It is the latest milestone in a partnership that dates back more than 200 years. In many ways, Morocco was the first friend of the United States. And Mr. Minister, while it's true that we signed that agreement in the 1780s, your country, Morocco, was actually the first to recognize the newly independent United States in 1777.
Today, under the wise leadership of His Majesty King Mohammed VI,
Morocco remains a critical partner on a range of security issues. Now more than ever, our two nations are working closely together to tackle the challenges of an increasingly complex security environment, ranging from counterterrorism and other transnational threats to regional instability and broader strategic challenges. We do this together to promote the security, the stability, and the prosperity of our shared goals and of our peoples. Our goal is to continually reinforce America's long-standing, steadfast commitment to Africa, and especially to Morocco, a major non-NATO ally and the gateway to this continent. A country that we've been friends with for many, many years, and I'm confident will remain friends and strategic partners with for generations to come. I had very good discussions this morning on a range of topics, not just security. Another is promoting robust trade and commercial ties between the United States and our African partners. This lies at the core of the U.S.-Africa strategy as we work together toward a more prosperous future. However, we cannot accomplish this unless we also continue to advance peace and stability and security across the continent. We must do so by strengthening our defense and development partnerships with African governments, as well as through regional mechanisms. Morocco is a leader when it comes to this area. We discussed today many ways in which we can improve our defense cooperation, our partnerships, our interoperability as the foundation of that relationship. Mr. Minister, you and your colleagues mentioned today, we did on multiple occasions, the importance of Africa Line and how well known it is throughout this region as a key training and exercise event for many, many countries, not just between the United States and Morocco. Our actions here today aim to advance that cooperation across many fronts as we build upon our historic partnership to achieve our shared security goals, which will contribute to stability and prosperity in Africa and beyond. I want to thank you gentlemen again today for your time and for your continued cooperation with the United States. I want to thank the Kingdom of Morocco, the people of Morocco, for your friendship and your cooperation over many, many decades. And I want to thank you for hosting me and my delegation here this morning on this very important occasion. Thank you all very much.
ما تنساش تابونا في لاشين وتأكد بالجرس باش يوصلك جديد الفيديوهات من هيسبريس.